The crystal chandeliers of the Witmore Grand Hotel blazed with afternoon light as Constance Whitmore walked through the lobby she had designed herself. But today her steps were not her own. Leon Hale moved beside her, half a step back, his hand at the small of her back. Beneath his suit jacket, something cold and hard-pressed against her spine. A weapon. Constance knew the rules without being told. No shouting, no running, no reaching for her phone. When she passed the janitor mopping near the concierge desk, she made her move. Her hand dropped to her side, fingers forming shapes in the air. Asterisk. Help me. He has a weapon. Asterisk. The janitor's mop stopped mid-stroke, but he did not look up. Silas Henry had learned long ago that invisible people see everything. For 3 years he had worked the day shift at the Witmore Grand, scrubbing floors that guests crossed without a glance downward. In a world that looked through him, excellence was his only voice. But the real reason Silas noticed everything was Matilda. His 7-year-old daughter was born deaf, with dark curls that never stayed in their braids and a smile that could light up any room. She had taught Silas a different way of seeing the world. When your child cannot hear you call her name, you learn to watch reflections in windows and shadows on walls. Every morning before his shift, Silas dropped Matilda at the special education program 3 blocks from the hotel. They had their own language, a combination of American Sign Language and private gestures families develop over years. 3 years ago, Constance had sponsored a program supporting deaf children, funding scholarships and equipment. The experience moved her to enroll in a basic sign language course, learning enough to greet students and understand simple conversations. She never imagined this gesture would become a survival tool. When she passed the janitor, Constance made a decision in 3 seconds. She recognized him from the break room, practicing hand shapes from a sign language manual. Her fingers moved with practiced precision. Asterisk. Help me. Gun. Forced contract. Do not look up. Asterisk. She kept walking, her face calm. Behind her, the soft splash of water hitting tile, the janitor's mop resuming its rhythm, but slower now, more deliberate. Silas felt his heart hammering as he watched the reflection in the marble floor. The CEO had just signed to him. His first instinct was to look up, but her final sign was clear. Asterisk. Do not look up. Asterisk. If he shouted for security, Leon might panic and fire. If he ran for help, Constance would be alone with an armed man. If he did nothing, he would carry that weight forever. He had 90 seconds to decide. Silas thought of Matilda waiting for him after school. He thought of the promise to her dying mother. Asterisk. Keep our daughter safe. Come home every night. Asterisk. But he also thought of the promise to himself. Never stand by while someone suffers. Years ago, before Matilda was born, Silas had worked in private security. After his wife's death, he quit. The work required a hardness he no longer possessed. He needed a job that let him be home for Matilda every single night, so he became invisible. But the training never left. Silas set down his mop and grabbed the yellow caution sign. He walked toward the VIP elevators, placing the sign directly in Leon and Constance's path. Asterisk. Wet floor, slippery surface. Asterisk. A small delay, maybe 30 seconds, but enough to reach the supply closet phone without being seen. Leon noticed the caution sign and frowned. He guided Constance toward the secondary hallway, his grip tightening. Silas moved quickly once they passed. He reached the supply closet and grabbed the phone, dialing security. Audrey Finn answered on the first ring. "This is Silas Henry from Day Shift," he said quietly. "I need you to watch the VIP route right now. The CEO is in danger. The man with her has a weapon. Do not approach directly. Silent response only." There was a pause. "I'm looking at the cameras now. I see them. Are you certain about the weapon?" "She signed to me," Silas said. "Sign language. She told me he has a gun and is forcing her to sign a contract. Stay on this line. I'm sending someone to create a diversion. I need you to move slowly down the VIP hallway and create legitimate reasons for delays. Buy us time." "I can do that," Silas said, and he meant it. For 3 years, he had been invisible in this hotel. Today, invisibility would be his greatest weapon. Leon was not an amateur. Any confrontation would turn deadly fast. The only path forward was to erode his control slowly, let security respond without triggering violence. Silas grabbed his cart and wheeled it down the VIP hallway. When he reached the elevator bank, he activated the maintenance mode, which would require anyone using it to call for assistance first. A small thing, barely noticeable, but it would force Leon to choose the service stairs or wait. Either option meant more time. Leon and Constance reached the elevator bank 90 seconds later. Leon pressed the button and frowned when nothing happened. He turned to Constance. "Is this normal?" "Sometimes the system glitches. We can take the service stairs." Leon's eyes narrowed. Something felt wrong, though he could not identify what. Service stairs. Now. Leon pushed open the stairwell door and gestured for Constance to enter first. As they climbed, he spoke for the first time in minutes. "I had hoped we could do this in a civilized manner, but your hotel seems determined to create complications." "I don't control elevator maintenance schedules," Constance said. "No," Leon agreed. "But you do control a great deal else. The debt your grandfather incurred 30 years ago, the leveraged buyouts your father executed, it all comes due eventually. We're simply here to collect." They reached the VIP floor, and Leon directed Constance into a small conference room. On the table sat a leather portfolio he had arranged earlier that morning. Inside was the contract, already prepared, already witnessed by forged signatures. All it needed was Constance's name. "Please sit. Review the contract if you wish, though the terms are non-negotiable. You sign, you walk out with your life and reputation. You refuse, and the story becomes much darker." Constance sat slowly, pulling the portfolio toward her. She began reading, not because she intended to sign, but because every minute was another minute for help to arrive. Outside in the hallway, Silas moved with careful precision. He used his cleaning cart to partially block the hallway, creating a barrier. Then he knelt beside an electrical outlet, removing the cover plate as if checking for a wiring problem. To anyone watching, he was a maintenance worker, doing routine tasks. To Audrey Finn, he was marking his position. Audrey's voice came through the radio clipped to Silas's belt. "We have officers staged. When I give the signal, I need you to create a distraction. Something that makes noise but doesn't seem like an attack." Silas pressed the button on his radio twice. 2 clicks meant yes. Inside the conference room, Constance was running out of pages to read. Leon pulled a pen from his pocket. "Enough. Sign the document. Sign it now." Constance picked up the pen. "Before I sign, answer one question. How did you know about my grandfather's debt?" "That information was sealed 40 years ago." Leon smiled. "Information doesn't disappear. I've been planning this for 3 years." His words were a confession. Constance understood Leon was not working alone. She positioned her hand so her fingers could form shapes beneath the table. "Help now. Close." In the hallway, Silas saw the sign through the glass panel. He stood, grabbed a metal tool tray, and dropped it. The clatter was enormous. Leon's head snapped toward the door. The distraction lasted 5 seconds, but 5 seconds was enough. Audrey Finn and 2 police officers appeared at the hallway's end, moving silently. They positioned themselves on either side of the door. Audrey opened it. Leon spun toward the sound, his hand emerging with the weapon visible. But before he could aim, Constance moved. She had been watching Silas through the glass. When Audrey opened the door, Silas signed one word: down. Constance dropped beneath the table as Audrey and the officers rushed forward, weapons drawn. Leon grabbed for Constance, but caught air. Then the technology specialist cut the conference room lights remotely. In 3 seconds of darkness, Officers wearing night vision moved with efficiency. When the lights came back, Leon was on the floor, weapon secured, hands restrained. The arrest took 17 minutes. Constance gave her statement in her office. When the detective asked how she signaled for help, she explained about sign language, about Silas, about reflections in marble floors. The next morning, Constance called Silas to her office. "I need to thank you and apologize. You saved my life, and I never even knew your name. You worked here 3 years, and I never once acknowledged your existence." Silas had not saved her for recognition. He had saved her because it was right. "Yesterday, I learned that power is an illusion," Constance continued. "The person with the most control was the janitor, who nobody noticed, who saw what others missed, who acted when action mattered." She walked to the window. "I'm going to create a fund to support families with children who have disabilities. I'd like to name it in honor of your daughter. I also want to offer you a different position, Director of Employee Safety and Wellness. You would oversee programs to ensure every worker has the resources they need." Silas thought about Matilda, about the future he wanted for his daughter, about real change requiring people who understood what needed changing. "I accept," he said. 3 months later, Constance stood in the lobby as a new plaque was unveiled near the main entrance. The plaque listed emergency protocols, including a silent alert system, allowing any employee to signal danger without speaking. The system had been designed by Silas and funded by the Matilda Henry Foundation. Matilda was there, holding her father's hand. Constance approached them and signed carefully. "Your father is a hero." Matilda's eyes widened. She looked at Silas, who nodded. Then Matilda signed back. "I know. He's my dad." Later, Constance found herself alone with Silas near the concierge desk where everything had begun. "I never thanked you properly," she said. "You thanked me with action," Silas replied. "The fund, the job, the safety protocols, those things will help people long after I'm gone." Constance signed instead of speaking. "Thank you. You saved my life. You changed everything." Silas signed back. "You gave me a chance to matter. That gift goes both ways." Matilda ran across the lobby and grabbed her father's hand, pulling him toward the exit. Constance watched them go, and for the first time in years, she felt hope, raw hope, that came from knowing you had been wrong about everything and choosing to be right going forward. She returned to her office and picked up the phone. "I want to expand our reach. Not just children with disabilities. Every family that struggles, every person who feels invisible. I want them to know they matter." The city darkened as night fell. Constance pressed her hand against the glass and made a promise. She would not forget. She would not return to the comfortable distance that separated CEOs from the people who cleaned their offices. She had been given a second chance, pulled back from darkness by hands that signed instead of shouted, by courage that required no audience, by a father's love teaching him to see what others missed. In the lobby far below, the night shift janitor began his rounds, working knowing his labor was seen, his presence acknowledged, his humanity recognized. That was the legacy of a terrifying afternoon when a CEO signed for help and a janitor refused to look away. Not just a life saved, but a system changed. Not just gratitude expressed, but dignity restored. And in a small apartment across the city, Silas Henry sat on the floor with his daughter, teaching her new signs and learning from her the ancient language of love that required no sound.